Hello, welcome back to Called to Homeschool with me, your host, Meg Thomas. I am a homeschool mom of seven with five homeschool graduates, still have two kids homeschooling, and it is a blast. And I love getting to share my all my experience and expertise with you. So today is kind of fun. I'm actually going to answer a couple of different questions today. One of them was kind of a short and sweet question, so I thought I would just throw it in here at the beginning. This question comes from Danae from Arizona, who asks, I just listened to your travel podcast. Travel has been my main drive for homeschooling. My husband is an airline pilot, so our family flies anywhere for free. We have been to some really fun places. I want to get better at learning about places before we go. You mentioned you read books before going. Where do you find good books about the locations you visit? We just created travel journals and picked Portugal as our next place to visit. We have a 4, 6, and 8 year old. I'm trying to have us all learn before we go, and sometimes I don't know how to structure it. You're always talking about great books you read. Where, how do you find those books? Yes, if this is something I would love to do is actually create stuff like this of like, hey, you want to go to this place? These are some of my favorite things to do. I haven't done it for Portugal yet. Haven't been there. But when I'm doing something like that, I love to get as familiar with the place as humanly possible. Now, with little kids like this, I'm not going to be doing a deep dive of maybe the royal families or just like the intricacies of their government or anything like that. I just really want them to love the place. So, years ago, I got to take all my kids to Kauai. And so I thought, I'm doing this with Hawaii. So we looked up Hawaiian legends, all about the islands and volcanoes, and learned some Hawaiian phrases and words about the Polynesian culture, who, what white person came to Hawaii to like how to get part of the United States, just all these different things about Hawaii. So with something like this, if you were looking at Portugal, looking up and seeing if there's something you know. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot about Portugal off the top of my head. So sometimes there are some countries that you kind of know some things about, like England or France, I know some things about, right? But if it's a country where I don't know a lot about it, I start with a Google search. I go and I look up places like Well Educated Heart to see what books she suggests about Portugal. I go to Beautiful Feet Books and see if they have something specific about that country. I utilize Google a lot, but I also utilize AI quite a bit. So I use ChatGPT and I start asking about like what are some fun books for my children, homeschool children, to learn about Portugal. And there are some really good travel books. I've had it in some of our lesson plans just to get to know about a different country that we're learning about. So geography is a really fun, easy one. You could get a European puzzle, but then just utilizing books and even on Amazon, books about Portugal for kids. But then to take it a step further and different things that you want to do there, using AI and say, create a homeschool itinerary for these different places. And what are some cool buildings we want to see? Or what do we want to go to any beaches? So then we could learn about the oceans. Do we want to go to any hiking? So any mountain ranges, any cool cliffs, any really cool stuff like that that we want to be familiar with. So I start utilizing AI, and I mean, it's kind of, I think it's super fun. I wondered about even eventually doing this for people of just like, hey, just hire me out and I'll create it for you or whatnot. But like it does take some time, but I find it really fun. And but just kind of like I utilize a lot of sources like that. Sometimes you can find good travel blogs. Even when my husband and I, when we went to Canada this last year for our wedding anniversary, I found a really good travel blog. And this lady, it wasn't for kids, it was just us, but it was like, here are some really great hikes, here are some fun things to do. My daughter and I traveled a lot this year. And so I utilized Instagram and it started giving me lots of suggestions and reels of places you should go and visit and things you should go and see while in France. So like I'm just always kind of researching and whatnot. And then as for you, maybe you want to do a little bit of a deeper dive of the country of Portugal, right? And so that you really love it. And so you can kind of talk about things and have a really positive experience. I know a girlfriend of mine, they did England, and I think they just stayed in London, if I remember correctly. But she had each of her kids research a topic. Now, yours might be a little bit too young for this, but I thought it was so cute that they got to be basically the tour guides. And so, like, let's talk about Big Ben. Did you know it's not the actual name of the clock? It's not Big Ben, right? So, just utilizing things like that. Traveling in Europe, I have found, oh, I'm actually gonna oh, it's called Free Tours. I was gonna pull up my phone. I was like, I cannot remember what it's called. Free Tours, and then you just pay a tip. Those have been really great to utilize that and get like, and especially in the big cities, to really get familiar with their surroundings. But just so much fun with finding books like that. So honestly, send me an email and I can even help you get started and have so much fun. Maybe I should have asked my husband to switch careers and be a pilot so I could fly for free, but I don't think that's his passion. So, anyways, great question today. Okay, so this other question that I really want to dive into today, and the topic of today's podcast, how can I enjoy homeschool again, comes from Christina from Utah. And I think a lot of people struggle with this part of joy and homeschool. And I really wanted to do a deep dive of this question. So Christina asks, homeschooling became the path for us because my husband works out of town. We want to stay together as a family, so we travel with him. I prayed about homeschooling and felt peace, although I wasn't excited about the answer. My husband is so supportive, but he works all day. He isn't the one teaching. He has dyslexia and didn't do well in school. It has been 2 years now and I'm not enjoying it. Sure, there are some things I like about homeschooling, but every day I drag my feet to get it done. I feel that it is reflecting in my children as well. That is why it's so hard to get them to do school. So, my question is, how can I enjoy homeschooling? How can I look forward to a day of teaching my 7-year-old how to read? So, I want to dissect this and then we're going to really dive into joy, because joy is a phrase I hear like, I want to have a lot of joy. I want to feel this joy. So, I want to just dissect a little bit because talking about like my husband is supportive, but he works all day, so he isn't the one teaching. And you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds a little bit like wah wah, like I'm a victim because I'm stuck home with these babies because he is out working. So if you had this mindset of like, poor me, this is so hard, it is not going to feel joyful. It will feel very challenging. You maybe even feel resentful toward your husband, even though you get to travel with them. But because he's at work, you might have some resentment there. You should be doing this, you should be helping more or whatever it is. And like if this is your roles that you guys have set up in your family that he works and provides, then you are the one who's going to be the general teacher for your children. Now, there are things that if you're like, I just want to break every now and then, you can totally utilize things like that. And whether that is your husband in the evenings, it also could be a co-op. It also could be just a play date with somebody of like, I just want a couple hours alone. Is there a nice grandma you live by that is going to say, sure, I'm going to watch your kids. You can go do this, a family member, something like that, just to give you a little bit of a break. So just kind of even thinking about that. And with this, that I'm not enjoying it, every day I drag my feet. Those are all the things that we're going to dive into today. So, first of all, let's look into why you may not be enjoying it. And I wonder if there's a little bit of resentment too. I know when I first started homeschooling, and my husband does a lot of business over lunch. And it's so funny because I actually don't love going out to lunch. I like to just be home, and it's really easy for me to overeat when I go out. So I try not to go out very much. And so it's so funny because he would go do business over lunch or over golf course or something like that. And I would feel very resentful. Like, you got me pregnant a bazillion times and now I'm stuck home raising your babies. And really, what changed was my mindset because he travels way more now than he did back then. And now I'm okay with it. Right. So it really is that mindset piece of not getting stuck in this victim mindset, like poor me. So, one of the reasons why you might not be feeling joy or enjoying homeschool right now is having some false expectation, thinking that homeschool should just feel easy. It should be lots of fun, or I should enjoy this every single day. But peace often means you're on the right path, not the painless path. So, um, lots of times we think that if we felt called to do this, if it felt like the right path, God asked me to do this, or I felt like I should be doing this. I know this is so true for me that I felt like it should be easy or really fun or really joyful all the time, but it's just not true. When I decided to go for it and try to train for my Ironman 70.3, I actually went into it with the mindset of I'm going to do this tired. I know I'm gonna wanna quit. I know it's gonna feel hard, but I'm gonna do it anyway, right? So it wasn't like, "This is so fun," because guess what? Getting up at 4:30 sometimes when it was 0 degrees outside and going into a pool and then having to come out of the pool sopping wet and it's freezing still was not fun. was not joyful, but I went into it without the expectations that this should be really fun all the time. Sure, there were some times I made some good friends. I joined a swim class, so that was fun. I was slower than all the grandmas and grandpas there. Um, I would bike, and sometimes I could get people to bike with me, or I could run. And a lot of times I can find people to run with me, or I could just run on a treadmill or whatnot. And I just knew it wasn't always going to be fun, but I was willing to do it anyway. So maybe letting go of some of these expectations that it should always be easy, or should always be fun, or I should always enjoy it. Sometimes you just have to push through. And like sometimes it's just not going to be fun. And then I think you kind of talked about this too, is like it's reflecting in your children as well. And you're most likely right. Because when we're dragging and we don't really want to do it, they are more likely to resist because it's like mom is really pointing out that this is kind of stupid. So they're just mirroring our mood and our energy. So if you want your kids to be more excited about school, you have to be more excited about school. And then an unrealistic picture of what school should look like. So maybe you're still trying to recreate public school at home. Maybe you're doing really long lessons. If it's your oldest that is 7, um, like cut it way down. Have school be so short and sweet, right? And especially if you guys are traveling with your husband, have school be something fun where you are looking at the places you're going. And even if it's, you said you're from Utah, so let's say you're going to Southern Utah. So, is there even something you could do where there's a national park by where your husband's going to be, or a really fun museum that you and the kids could go to? So, I mean, we just tagged along with my husband last week, and we didn't get it. We didn't go to a national park or anything, but we had different things that we were going to do while my husband would be working. And one of the times he traveled, he went to Vegas, and Vegas for me is not a big kid town. So we drove out and we went and saw an LDS temple. And then we went to, is it called the Valley of Fire State Park? And went hiking and did lots of fun stuff like there. And lots of times I love visitor center. And so you can usually find some really great books that are helpful about learning about the areas. And to me, I'm like, that is cool. It's so stinking fun. So maybe letting go of what you think you should be doing with them, some unrealistic expectations of like, this is what school should look like, and quit trying to recreate public school at home. I love this quote from Charlotte Mason, and she said, education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life. And so when you start like even the atmosphere of what are we listening to? Is it just fun music? And I mean, so simple. We use Spotify, and I have a playlist that it created for me of like classicals for kids, and it has really fun, beautiful classical music just for children. So easy, right? Just that atmosphere. Are there paintings? Are there books around your house? Right? That it's just this atmosphere, and then a discipline. So maybe we do some structured learning, and right now maybe that is just you reading to your kids because they are so little, and then the life. And so when you are traveling with your husband, how, like, if you guys are driving, could you listen to audiobooks? Could you make it something where it's like we just are always learning? So it doesn't need to be this set down time of 9 to whenever that we're doing school, but it is this lifestyle that we want to do. So now let's really dive in and talk about joy. And I want to pause here and just remind you, you don't have to feel joy. Like, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong if you're not feeling joy, and you don't even have to feel joy all the time. And, I already talked about that for me, like, I've had those beliefs that if I was called to do something, it would be easy, like, the way would just be paved, and it's rarely true. Even when I first started my homeschool business and I felt really strong that I should be doing this, and everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and I had learned this lesson through multiple errors, trials and errors of it doesn't mean I was doing something wrong. It was just an opportunity to learn, right? And so like everything went wrong with my website, everything was screwy, everything got messed up, right? And it's still now things will get messed up, and it doesn't mean always doing something wrong, or that it's not the right path, but it's for an opportunity to learn. So sometimes when it is hard, to me, it's like, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? What do I take from this? Sometimes the hard means I need to figure something out and try something in my home. So sometimes things are hard or not enjoyable, and that's okay. Because even the things we love the most, like marriage, parenting, maybe even serving others, aren't always fun, but they are meaningful. And the same goes for homeschooling. You can love your children deeply and still feel exhausted. You can be living and going into your calling and still long for a break. And it's okay to admit that. It's okay to say, this feels hard sometimes, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're failing, it means that you are human. Now, that doesn't mean feeling joy is a bad goal. So let's dive into that of how to find joy in your homeschool. So sometimes it is recentering on your why. Now, you said your why is keeping your family together. So if like that is really big to you, this why, like what are you doing to help do that while you're not traveling with your husband, right? With that togetherness at home. Is it playing games together? Is it cooking together? Is it cleaning together, right? So when you really know what your family values and what you value, you have to make sure it's a part of your homeschool because if it's not, your homeschool will always feel off. I've talked about this lots before that I value adventure. And I love when we get to tag along with my husband on a business trip. And this last one, we call him Johnny Shortcuts. And we were in Colorado and we were near Boulder, I believe. And we said, I go, will you take us on a Johnny shortcut home and find us something weird to go and see? And so the shortcut was up through Wyoming, which our shortcuts are always so much longer. So he drove us up through Wyoming and he found the most random pyramid in the middle of Wyoming. And then we looked up all the history of this crazy pyramid. And it was actually a railroad used to go through that area. And it was to honor these men that were in the railroad. And then we found out there ended up being a huge scandal and like all of these fun things just from like a crazy shortcut home. But it like completely filled my bucket. And then I can keep going with school and I just need to plan a little adventure later on. And so my adventures don't need to be big or expensive or like big and fabulous. I love being together and I love finding something weird or strange or fun to do. And it totally helps my homeschool for me to go through like the day to day stuff that gets a little monotonous. So, what do you value? What is important to you, right? So, family together time is. So, is that just making sure you're eating your meals together, right? Playing games, like so lots of those things I said, so that your homeschool doesn't feel off. And then being intentional with adding in joy of things that you find bring joy for you. So is this alone time? I know some people like it really helps if they have a minute to themselves and then they can show up for their kids with more joy. So sometimes is it finding some joy for myself? So is it as simple as studying, writing in my journal, meditating, reading my scripture, something like that, going on a walk, running, riding a bike, something like that, right? Does that bring you joy? And then is it something you could also do with your kids? Like read aloud. I know a lot of moms get touched out, but I think it's super fun. And so I love when my 8-year-old will still shove himself into my chair and sit with me and sit with my blanket and we do read aloud together. And it's been so cute because sometimes I'll even have my granddaughter strapped to me and then he still slides in there. And I think this brings me so much joy. So do you know what brings you joy with your kids? Reading loud totally brings me joy, especially if they're cuddling. Cooking together, I think is so fun. Art, I don't love doing a lot of art with kids, but maybe you do. Um, Playing games, I do love to play games. That is my favorite. Something like that that just really helps you to bring in joy and bringing in something fun. And it can be as simple as like we do tea time and we probably never drink tea for tea time, but we usually do a fun drink. One time I even thought I'd be funny and did water with food coloring, and I was like, "Do you guys like this?" And they're like, "It doesn't taste any different." Like, so our tea time can be something really fun and enjoyable. They love if I'll get chocolate milk or sparkling cider, Kool-Aid, just something a little bit fun. Sometimes we'll cook our tea time snack together and eat it. Sometimes it is just crackers from the store and they think it's so fun. And we read funny nursery rhymes together. And to me, that brings a lot of joy. So, is there something you could be doing in your school to create that joy on purpose? Now, you mentioned also about your 7-year-old and for him to read. And I don't know that I did this in a podcast, talked about this, but I talked about it in a reel. And I probably should do a whole podcast episode about it. But it was talking about that how couple different education models don't even start formal education till 7 or 8 or till a child is ready. And I got to sit on a homeschool panel with a couple moms, and another mom was a seasoned mother like myself. And she said, if I could go back again, I wouldn't even start homeschooling until 8 and just letting them be a kid and play. Thomas Jefferson education really has those phases of learning. I really love the idea of that. And that 0 to 7 is really like what good and wrong, our values, working hard, doing chores, lots of those things before for that structured learning. With mine, I actually just wait till they're ready, and it makes school so much more fun. But so some ideas are in Finland, one of the top countries for education. Children don't even start formal reading lessons until age 7. And so maybe you've been trying to do too much. There's a lot of beautiful language art books out there, but they just don't need it. They really don't need it at this young age. And I know the public education model is like fire hosing kids with information, but they forget it and they just don't even care. And it just causes contention and fighting of like, just do this. Come on, let's go. And a lot of times you just slow down and don't get into burnout. So my guy would be third grade if he were in public school, and we've been doing first grade language arts, and we go so slow, and he gets it. And it like, I don't care if he can't break down what an adverb is. He doesn't know the definition yet, but eventually we'll get to those things because little 7-year-olds don't need to know these things. And so a lot of that can just be reading to him and having fun with picture books and creating some of that joy there for him and for yourself. Also, the Waldorf approach also waits until the child's imagination and readiness naturally unfold. Isn't that a beautiful phrase of just like, I'm ready. I'm ready to learn something, right? And even myself, when I don't want to learn something, and I think about even my husband showing me something, and I think I just don't care. And it maybe it's something in my car, fixing something in my car, fixing something around the house. And I was like, but you can just do it, right? Like I don't want to do this. And so I'm not even going to pay attention. But when I want to know something, all of a sudden I'm ready. I can change a tire now on my bike, and I'm pretty proud of myself because I'm really good at it. And but I was ready for it, and I went and figured out, and I watched videos on it, and I've practiced on how to do it, right? And so when I'm ready for it, all of a sudden I'm open to receiving the message, the idea of how to learn this thing. And then finally, Charlotte Mason wrote that lessons should be short. I say this all the time, right? Short, joyful, and begin when the child shows interest, not when the calendar says so. Isn't that so great? So, waiting for your child to show interest instead of the calendar saying, well, they should know this because somebody who doesn't know your child made up a timeline of when you should know things. So if your 7-year-old isn't really interested in reading, don't push it. Just slow back, like pull back, slow down, and have some fun. And it doesn't mean just let your kid go watch TV all the time, because if they're doing that, then they're never going to show interest, right? But just letting them play, having a lot of fun. And as they are ready, maybe start with little 5-minute lessons of like, let's just sing the ABCs, or let's like just recognize what the letters are. And as they're ready, they'll want to know a little bit more and more. And it was funny. It wasn't until my oldest came by, and he likes comic books, and he had Garfield comic books. And so my youngest all of a sudden wanted to read it, and all of a sudden was much more inclined to learning how to read because his brother was showing him these Garfield comic books. And like it totally opened him up, and he was ready for it. And now he is reading really, really well. But we went super duper slow, and I'm totally okay with that. So, I want to share a little bit more of some practical shifts to enjoy teaching and enjoy homeschooling again. So, once again, simplify, 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 simplify. Cut things back, less overwhelm, more connection. And even if it's lots of arts and crafts, and just even just being with you and having like your kid by your side. So, if you, or going grocery shopping. They're learning so many skills from going grocery shopping with you. Cleaning the house. If you have animals that they help take care of, right? Just letting them be a part with you, they're learning so much that you don't need to be diving into all these deep core subjects. And if you guys are traveling a lot, just making that part of your homeschool. So maybe you don't need to know about a deep dive of history, especially at 7, of like different tribes in Africa, or like why are there all these different like European language spoken in Africa? You don't need to dive into that. But if you're going to be driving around and going into different states, like, hey, why did Utah's flag used to have a honeybee on it? What's that all about? Who was here before the Mormon pioneers came to Utah? Oh, why, like you Indians were here, and like there are lots of places even in my town, like near me, like Battle Creek. What was that about? Because there was a battle with the Native Americans here, right? And so just like that can be history of just your own town, and your own state and things that you're going. Once again, short lessons, I will sing that forever. And it's building up the ability to get longer focus. And I think about this with my running too. And there's this physical therapist I've been following and running, and I really like her. And she was talking about that people get injured because they continue to keep pushing harder and faster and more miles than their body is ready for. But if you will get a really good base and go nice and slow and not push yourself, you will be able to eventually run long miles without getting hurt. So I was thinking about this with homeschool is like these short and sweet lessons. And then all of a sudden you keep doing it and building a little bit at a time and a little bit at a time. Then when your kid is older, they totally have the attention span where they can sit for a longer lesson or they can study on their own, right? But when they're little, just keep it short. Um, Maybe even changing your rhythm. So maybe you were like, I'm not a morning person, but you're trying to do school in the morning. What about in the afternoon time? What about reading during lunch? Just keeping it fun outside, going on a picnic, whatever it is, short bursts while traveling, but just changing up the rhythm a little bit to match your own mood and energy. Embracing tools, like I said, audiobooks when you are on the road. You could do a lot of games. I'm a big fan of games, co-ops if you want to share the load, some different things like that. Celebrating progress and like having fun and celebrating it. Having parties when you finish a book. If there's a book that you read that has a movie that goes along with it, right? So my son is reading Robin Hood right now. And so I thought my kids have never seen the Robin Hood, the Disney Robin Hood. And so I said, okay, at the end of the month, when everybody's finished all their books, we're going to watch Robin Hood. We're going to have like just a movie day and we're just going to cuddle. We're going to have a lot of fun and we're going to watch this movie. So that's really fun. I used to do Battle of the Brains with all my kids and that was super duper fun. And we would do it either monthly or quarterly, of just like everything that we've been learning. And we would have this huge competition and everybody who finished all their books was invited to my pizza party and we'd get to watch a movie. The person who won Battle of the Brains would get to pick the movie. And it was so fun. And my cute George has never participated in Battle of the Brains because he's such a caboose. And so he asked if we could have one. And so we're having a Battle of the Brains reunion tour in December when everybody other than my missionary will be home. And so we've actually been making our school to prepare them for Battle of the Brains. And it is just making school so much more fun because like we're going to have a competition, we're going to play games. And so that's been a lot of fun. And so we'll have a pizza party, or if my kids want a different type of food now, um, and we'll just have a lot of fun with our Battle of the Brains reunion tour. So watch for that. And just like reframe what things look like, right? Snuggling, light a candle, having music, and remember this is about heart work, not just head work. So I want to just, as I'm wrapping up here, I want to remind you that joy is simply a feeling that is created by a thought in your head. So if you truly want to feel joy, you need to think of the thought that creates it for you. So I want to leave you with this episode with some thoughts that can help you feel joy. So I love when I'm coaching and I get to see somebody's face like I'll throw out a thought that I like and maybe they're like, they'll be like, no, it doesn't resonate with me. And you just try on some and you have them try on some. And it really is like trying on jeans, right? Of like, yes, this one I feel good in, it matches my body. Like I love it. And you're doing the same idea with thoughts. And when I'm coaching somebody, I can usually see when a thought resonates with them because they light up of like, yes, that one creates the feeling I want to have. So I'm going to leave you with this list. And I decided to also make it a printable and it will be in my weekly email. So you can just download that for free when my weekly email comes out. So here are the thoughts. This is fun. I can create joy. Peace starts with me. I get to do this. How fun is that one? My kids don't need perfect, they need present. I choose connection over control. Joy is in the little moments. I can slow down. Today doesn't have to be amazing to be meaningful. I'm doing holy work. I am calm and capable. Laughter counts as learning. I can find beauty here. God will help me today. I can start fresh right now. Small moments make a big difference. I'm building something eternal. Joy is available even here. I can breathe and begin again. This is the good stuff. Friends, have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you next time.